What up, Cagesiders? It's your boy Sean here with my life partner, boss, and lover, Gino Morosco.
Hi. Well, like I was gonna say, we got married. Remember, like 2 shows ago. So I don't know what
True,
you're
true.
already distancing
Sorry.
yourself from that decision.
No, all right, my husband. I'm sorry. I don't mean to
Thank you.
it's for so long we were just life partners.
I love you, honey.
Anyway, we also have with us tonight Mike Fagan from
Hey,
Untethered MMA, Tuesday nights at 6 p.m., the longest running MMA podcast in the entire history of the known freaking universe.
hi guys.
How'd I do? Was that right?
Yeah.
Cool.
We joke about that. Roth this week in our intro, he likes to just improv it a little bit. But this week he said that we were the longest running MMA show on Google Hangouts, which actually might be correct. I'm actually pretty sure we were the first MMA podcast to jump on the Google Hangout train.
Can I just say that once we started talking about Sean and I being married, every single one of us were like, "Oh, hey." We started talking like, "Why did that occur?" Sean's like, "Oh, hi."
I was just following your
guys.
lead, you know.
Hey guys, let's talk about wrestling. The G1 Climax. Ooh.
It does sound sexy.
It does sound sexy.
Yeah. What do we want to talk about first? Do you want me? I'll back off. You guys can talk about G1 if you want, and then come in when it's up to you guys.
I want to know, Gino, what is your problem with New Japan Pro Wrestling?
Well, I don't have a problem with New Japan Pro Wrestling. It's that Dave Walsh occasionally does stuff for the site, and it's usually Japan related. And what'll happen is he'll send me a DM on Twitter, and he'll go, "So how much of a death do you think a post about literally anything related to Japan would die?" And I'm like, there might be 45 people who read it, but every single one of those people will really, really appreciate it.
Mm-hmm.
So if that floats your boat, go ahead. Sure enough, he does a post. It's a really good post. And then, yeah, like 1,000 people read it. So it's like, as opposed to, 1,000 people read the Rumor Roundup within the first 10 minutes that it's on the site. So it's like, it's just there's no money in it. It's not that I have a problem with it. It's that I'm in charge of making Cageside make money, and there's just no money to be made on talking about G1.
You are interested in what's best for business. That's what
It's all about what's best for business, as my I wish she was my wife, Stephanie, would say.
All right, Fagan. So let's be nerds and talk about G1 for a second.
All right, let's do it.
That no one. So if anybody's tuning in for anything else, this is just for the 45 people. So what'd you think? Who is your breakout star?
I think the two guys that most everyone are talking about are Michael Elgin and Tetsuya Naito. And for me, it was Naito because, heading into the tournament before he came back from Mexico, if you had told me a month or two later that I would be just gripping to watch him every time he stepped in the ring, I would have laughed at you. The character change that he had. And just that sort of I don't give a fuck, I'm gonna do what I want thing, plus the whole gimmick with the suit and undressing really slowly, and in addition to that, like the other wrestlers opposite him reacting to it and the different ways that they reacted to it each time he fought, I thought it was just brilliant. And I don't know if you hear all the time about successful characters being an extension of yourself, a heightened version of yourself. I don't know if that's more in line with who he is, in his everyday life. But whatever it is, he connected with something, and I'm totally on board with it.
Those would be my top two picks. I don't know. I mean, I don't watch. I think Gino and I have talked about it before. I think one of the real reasons he doesn't watch New Japan is just a bandwidth issue in terms of time, and I struggle with that too. But I definitely do not watch any CMLL, which is where I don't even know how to pronounce Los Ignorables.
Right.
I mean, but yeah, it's amazing, and I wish Gino had time to watch it because that's the kind of character and gimmick that he would fucking mark out all over of. But
and I think the time thing is a big thing to talk about with the G1 because this is the first year that I'm following New Japan fairly regularly. And I had this idea at the start of the year. I picked up New Japan World. I was going to watch every single event they put on New Japan World. And I got about 4 or 5 months into it, and I'm like, there's no way I can watch all these house shows anymore.
Yeah.
I can't watch
the strong cam ones or whatever the.
Yeah, and I can't watch 8-man tags, the 8-man tags over and over again. But the G1s in particular, is it 3 weeks, 2 weeks?
It was 3 weeks. It was 19 days this time.
Yeah, and for me, I was fortunate. I'm in school right now, and the tournament lined up right with the break between the summer semester and the fall semester.
Nice.
But even then, it's hard to catch up with all of it. And I sort of had to, towards the beginning of the tournament, I had to pick and choose which matches I wanted to watch. And then towards the end, I was just watching all of the G1 matches and, again, skipping the 8-man.
That's what I did most of the way through, yeah.
Yeah, and, it's a real time commitment, but the payoff is that, you get a lot of really good wrestling, you get a lot of really good stories, and the payoff of the finals is fantastic, so.
So as a new guy to New Japan, are you frustrated with the Tanahashi wins LOL stuff and a guy like Naito or Ibushi not getting put over by the booking in the tournament, or is it still new enough to you that you're not pissed off about that stuff yet?
No, yeah, it's still new enough for me. I obviously follow people who follow New Japan longer than I have and know more about it. And maybe part of this too is because I've come around on Cena this year as well. He's obviously had a really great year, and part of that is that he's been putting guys over and doing a really cool job with that. But yeah, it's still fresh to me. There's things about the New Japan style that have sort of become tiresome at times. Every match having some sort of sequence or multiple sequence of just repeated forearm shots back and forth.
Right.
Stuff like the 8-man tags constantly, and those have a very formulaic routine to them. But overall, I enjoy the product a lot. I like that it's more about the wrestling. It's really focused on the wrestling. But I watch it with the Japanese commentary. I don't watch it on Access. I know that's a few months behind as well, but and I sort of enjoy it more that way, not in a sort of snobby way, but just in a I sort of like watching it as an American viewer from the outside and having that experience with it instead of having it sort of catered for me.
Right.
But it'll be interesting to see this time next year how I feel about it. Especially trying to go through another G1 and how I'm going to approach it, having a better idea of the sort of time commitment you need to really watch all of it.
Yeah, I think it'll be interesting too to see, because I guess this will be your first time through the story, which with defending the G1 championship and then going to Wrestle Kingdom or whatever they call. I guess they've been calling the January 4th show Wrestle Kingdom for a long time now, but this will be your first trip through a full year's worth of Gato's booking, so.
Yeah, it'll be fun.
I am a fan of the Access show. I think it provides, for me, even though I've seen a lot of those matches before, as somebody who's tried to keep up at least with the big matches for a couple years, it's a different perspective on it. They do a good job with the presentation of it and sort of explaining the angles a little bit more. So I would recommend checking it out. But I don't have any problem watching it on NJPW World and feeling like I'm missing something by not speaking Japanese.
Yeah. How do you feel about the booking of it and Tanahashi winning and?
I'm okay with it. Like you said, I think, and this is a good segue out of this, I guess. Tanahashi. If you can watch a Tanahashi match and say this guy isn't one of the best pro wrestlers in the world, I don't know what you're watching. Mm-hmm. So I understand the inclination to continue to book around him, and I also think, it's. For the last couple of years, they've been a couple of things that they do better than WWE in terms of storytelling is they will commit to a long-term story in a better way, and they keep it so that guys kind of stay away from each other, like the Nakamura Okada and Nakamura Tanahashi matches at the end. Those are not one like in WWE. I don't know what the comparison is because you've seen Cena versus Orton a million times. You've seen Cena versus Triple H. Everybody. They don't protect any of those special matchups. So I think New Japan does a good job of that, and I think they are telling a story where Okada's finally going to beat Tanahashi at Wrestle Kingdom, which he's never done. And last year he cried when he couldn't do it. So it's a long story of Okada becoming the ace that I think they're going to pay off. If they don't pay that off, I'm going to be a lot more pissed off.
Yeah, and I think the other fun thing about the G1, and I sort of mentioned this in reference to Naito, but being able to see people interact with other people who they don't usually in the storylines, and even the stuff like the various Bullet Club members having to fight each other, that was really fun. It looked like they were having a lot of fun with it, which is always as a viewer, it's always fun to see performers having fun with it as well.
Yeah, Elgin, you can't say enough about that guy. As a guy who's watched Ring of Honor for a long time and hated him, I legitimately hated him, didn't like his work. His stuff. I mean, the Ishii match was probably my favorite match of the tournament, just in terms of fun to watch and like sitting screaming at my television at 5 a.m.
Right.
So I can't say enough about him, but also, I mean, just AJ Styles being just like a funny motherfucker. I didn't know that was a thing that existed.
Yeah.
But he's hilarious.
Yeah, he had a lot of fun with yelling at the referees and in the Bullet Club stuff. He had a lot of fun with that too.
Yeah, watching him in TNA and even his early stuff in Ring of Honor or early New Japan stuff, I had no idea that there were comedy stylings behind the phenomenal one.
Right. But, and the thing, with Elgin for me is, I don't watch Ring of Honor, and it's not because it's kind of like what you guys are talking about. It's a time thing. I don't really have access to it. I think we get it in like standard definition on my cable package, but so I don't have that sort of background with him. But it was fun seeing the Japanese crowd really respond to him as the tournament went on and on, where he sort of came in and not really anybody really knew who he was. He wasn't getting too much of a reaction, and then by the end of it, the Japanese crowds were pulling for him and getting his name, which was really cool.
Yeah, he's. I hope they have him back. I mean, I think they're going to have to treat him differently in Ring of Honor, especially now that they seem to have formed that partnership is firmed up a lot more.
I guess the only other thing we should probably touch on is Hanma getting a win.
That seems like 3 weeks ago, but it was just last week. Yeah, that was. I mean, it was worth it. It was worth it. I mean, that win was fucking cathartic for a nation, and and I don't mean Japan. I mean smarks everywhere.
Well, and again, that was the thing for me. I didn't have the past history with the G1, and so all I saw was people complaining like, oh, he lost again. This story isn't fun anymore. This story isn't fun anymore. But once he gets that win, it's gonna pay off, and it did.
Yeah, and I think even when he'd lost in his last match, people went right back to complaining. Well, the other win doesn't mean anything now, which is just proof that we can complain about anything. I mean, even though that was a fucking awesome moment and everybody marked out, and I mean, I don't know. I don't know I don't know how good of a promo he is. I know he's a really charismatic presence in the ring. I don't know how much of that is just because he loses a lot as a foreigner who doesn't follow the product as much as I would like to, maybe. So, but yeah, as far as a payoff for that one moment in this tournament, I thought that was huge. It was great, and I mean, I really think that this tournament, I think it turn some more people onto the New Japan product. I think it'll be interesting to see if they can keep that momentum going. It's not going to be WWE at any point, but could it be a replacement for what TNA was 4 years ago? I think it could. So we'll see.
Yeah.
None of our posts did any numbers.
Look, man, stop hating. Do our TNA posts do any numbers?
Yeah.
Oh, well.
Decker's Impact reviews sometimes get decent play.
No, they do. Well, Decker's awesome, but I feel like the New Japan stuff has done better this year than it did like when I would throw something up randomly last year.
Sure.
I mean, there's a positive trend.
Yeah. That's a function of our growth as opposed to theirs.
I do wonder though. I mean, people think of us as a WWE site, so I don't know.
That's because we are.
Well, I don't know. That's as it should be, but I think we kind of have to educate some people who are more into other things that we're covering them more now too.
That sounded mean. I'm sorry, Sean.
That's all right.
I love you.
You've had a tough day. Honey.
It really has been an awful day. I'm super tired too. I almost just fell asleep like I was Matt Roth a couple years ago.
Well, Roth fell asleep on my show a few weeks ago.
Dude, it was the greatest. It's one of the greatest moments in Cageside Live history, though. Because
I think it's one of the greatest moments in podcasting history ever.
Did Roth fall asleep and then it's quiet for a second? You just hear.
See, he's done it on my show twice. So when he does it on your show twice, then we can start talking.
Man,
All
that's awesome. Roth is
well,
just.
He slept through a whole show. Does that count?
I think we should
supposed
recommend
to
he
get
go
up and
see
do
a
July
doctor.
4th with us, and
We're cracking jokes, but he should probably go see a doctor at this point.
For which for his alcoholism or his narcolepsy?
Oh Jesus!
Love you, Maddie. I'll talk to you Saturday night, boo. All right, let's talk about. Do we want to talk about it?
You're calling everybody boo, Sean. You're a slut.
Well, but you guys are gonna have a kissing contest while I fondle my breastises, so we're all in the family, right?
Mike Fagan doesn't know how gay the gayness he walked into here. He's like, Jesus, what are they talking? That's what I told Roth. He's like, we'll have a what do you call it?
You call it a gay chicken. Yeah.
I was like, you don't understand. I'm not playing chicken. I'm just going to kiss you. Like there's no game to me. You're offering a kiss. I'm taking it. I don't care. I always think of Louis C.K. He's like, I don't need to apologize for that. I'll suck his dick. I don't need to. So no, can we talk about Sasha Banks?
What about her?
Well, have you read the site today, Sean?
I saw the headline. I didn't read the whole thing.
She responded on her Tumblr. She has a Tumblr, which there's no way WWE knows about this.
Well, they don't know. Vince doesn't know what Tumblr is, so.
Right. But so she responded to the crowd chants on Raw. Here's what she said. They want change, but they won't change themselves. End quote. Okay. So I'm a fan. That's the appeal of our site. What's the SB Nation has a motto, and I should know it. Professionally run, fan-driven, professionally run, or something like that. Like, we're fans. That's the basic gist of it, okay? Yeah. So essentially, she's talking to us, right? It is not my job. It is not your job. It is not any fan's job to help the performer get their act over. It's not. Don't blame me because your match is so uninteresting with your character alignments switching mid-match. We have no idea. It's two heels. And then it's there. Well, no one knows who to. You're not playing the babyface, and then now suddenly you're a heel, and it just switches because I guess there was a commercial break, and no one knows who to cheer for. And it's 4 hours in, and everyone just wants to see Brock because it's the first time he's been back in Minnesota in a decade, and he's a babyface, and he's as over as he's ever been. And so they're just, I don't care about this. To say that they want change, but they don't want to change themselves. You're walking into a restaurant and paying for a meal. And when you're like, this tasted like shit, the chef's like, oh, wow, you want an omelet, but you don't want to help cook it. Like, how ridiculous is this, Sean? Defend your girl here. It's like she actually said this.
Well, I can't really defend her. I mean, I blasted Roman Reigns for a similar approach, so I would be a hypocrite if I didn't also blast my girl. I mean, that's not the right approach to take, I don't think. My only defense for her would be that she is a heel. At least the character that I have been watching for the last year and a half on NXT is definitely a heel.
She's healing on her Tumblr page?
She could be. She is. I think she. I don't know if you guys watched NXT last night. I think she is trying her best to learn from Kevin Owens and heel at all possible times. She does some healing on her Twitter. So, and not laying on hands. I mean, playing a wrestling villain. So that would be my potential defense. But I don't. I'm sure she gets frustrated. I think that's a problem with wrestling in general, though. I think a lot of times shit goes wrong and they don't look at themselves or they don't look at the booking of themselves and they blame us. They buy into the WWE universe line about us being part of the show and then blame us when it doesn't work out the way they want it to.
So I don't follow the WWE TV product particularly closely, but I sort of have a vague understanding of what's going on by reading Cageside seats. How exactly is the Diva women's factions working out in terms of how it's getting over? Because I know when I saw it, it looked really hokey to me.
That's a good. Then it's good to have you on, someone who doesn't follow every week, because when you do see it, it's just right. The answer to that is it's not. Like, it's not getting over. It's not. Right, Sean? I mean, it's.
No, I mean, what they've done, I think what you've seen is, I think hokey's a good word for it, because they have put zero kind of effort into it.
There's no thought.
Yeah, they said, here's 4 new women, and you should be excited.
Yeah,
we're gonna put them on TV more.
It seems like a lot of the problem that they've had booking women is that, you know, going back to what we were talking about with New Japan, there's no sort of long-term vision. It's sort of seat of the pants booking, and you know, when I saw the video of them introducing the NXT ladies up to Raw, it was just like, all right, well, you guys are here, you guys are here, you guys are here, and you know, let's see how this works out. And it just seemed like a really weird way to try to capitalize on the momentum that had been sort of organically built.
Well, so let me, as somebody who doesn't watch Week In, Week Out, when you watch that segment, who was the star of that segment?
I mean, I think you're trying to goad me into saying Stephanie, aren't you?
I mean, yeah. I mean, I'm not. Yeah, I am. I'll fess up to that.
I mean, and I say that too, though, because you know, if you were asking me who in the ring was the star, I couldn't tell you.
Right. So I mean, even if it's not Stephanie,
exactly,
they didn't present anyone else as being the.
Well, and here's a good example. This weekend, Takeover's on Saturday. NXT, their big event, their biggest event that they've ever run, 13,000 people at the Barclays Center, sold it out. Couldn't fucking believe the success that they had with it. And then SummerSlam's the next night. Okay? Look at the positioning of the women on both cards. They are quite deliberately positioning Bayley versus Sasha Banks for the NXT Women's title as they're calling it a double main event internally, meaning it'll get just as much time as Finn Balor versus Kevin Owens, and it's being made into as big a deal as any other match. So it's a double main event. So it's essentially, it could close the show. It's not going to, but it's right. So it's being presented. It's just as important. Okay. SummerSlam. It's a trios match. It's elimination, and to this moment, no one knows what the fucking rules of the match are. If one person gets pinned, is the whole team out, or is it everyone in the team needs pinned? And I think it's if one person gets pinned, the whole team has to leave, which makes it far less interesting. There are 0 stakes. It's a 10-match show, and that's just another match. There's literally nothing on the line. Nikki Bella has been Divas Champion for 270 days. The record is 295. And when's the last time she defended her title? She doesn't. It hasn't happened in like a month.
And we don't know whether we're supposed to cheer for her or boo her as she pursues that record.
Yes, she's a heel one week and a babyface the next, and a heel in a match and a babyface later in that same match.
Yep.
Like, that's a real thing. Like, that's exactly what happened on Raw, which is why the fans turned on it, which is why it's bullshit for Sasha to be like, well, they want change, but they want change, but they don't want to change themselves. And it's like, what am I supposed to do? Like, just, you know, like I said on the other show, like, you can't feed me a shit sandwich and then expect me to be real nice because, you know, the slices of bread are good people. You know, you know what I mean? It's
she can't blame who she really has to blame, though, either, right? I mean,
it's true. We can. We do it for her.
Yes.
But don't turn it against the fans, like, unless you're just trying to heel on them. But I don't think that Tumblr with 218 people would make much of a difference.
But those are her 218 most passionate followers. I have followed Sasha on Tumblr for years. That's not true, but
that's I was gonna say that's a vicious lie that you just told.
I should have been. I feel bad right now that I haven't been.
But yeah, so it's
I agree with you completely. I mean, as far as the NXT main roster divide, I mean that I am much more invested in the Sasha Bayley program than I am even the Owens Balor program. I think the build's been better, the story's been longer. Yeah, and that's never. I don't know. I have no reason to believe that they are ever going to be given that sort of time or storytelling on WWE.
Well, and think of this: they book. So again, it's monumentally stupid, or it's either deliberate because you're trying to sabotage them, or just incompetence to put them right before Brock coming out in Minnesota in the SummerSlam go-home show. I mean, and it's, again, the merits of booking the match to begin with, I can't understand it.
Yeah,
it's
giving away champion versus champion.
Champion versus champion. At your last opportunity, if Sasha, in fact, loses the belt at TakeOver, which we don't know, and, you saw the spoilers.
Yep.
I won't say, but, it could be a swerve. We don't know. But so it's you might not have this chance again, and you're booking the match, and so you have your NXT Women's Champion submit clean with, right? Was there? I don't think there was interference. Was there?
No.
No, there was.
Was there?
Because Nikki was going to do the rack attack, and then someone climbed up on the apron, I think. And then Sasha turned it around, but still, she submitted the champ, and this should be made into this.
It was a minor distraction. It wasn't. Yeah.
Yeah, and there's awesome photo on WWE.com where Sasha's doing a ring entrance, and in the background you can see Nikki holding up the Divas title. It actually looks like an iconic image.
Mm-hmm.
Like, this should be a really big deal, and let's just throw it on before Brock comes out. Let's put them in the slot where people will want to care, but they just don't have the energy because it's an unbelievably long show, and just how can you care at that point? There's nothing that can get over in that slot. They could have brought out fucking Steve Austin, and he wouldn't have got much of a reaction. And then now here's the real star. So it's just doing that kind of shit is just super hurtful to what they're trying to do. And Nikki was on SmackDown tonight, cut a promo, literally saying, "Oh, you beat me. You think that gives you it? Like, you're going to be Divas champ one day, and that's cool, but you're not Divas champ today. I am, and that makes me the most powerful diva in the entire in all of sports entertainment." Which, what does that tell you? What does that line tell you? Someone's going to come back around to tell her you're not the most powerful woman in sports entertainment.
You would think, but I'm not
sure.
sure.
Comes back to say that. You know who's going to say that, don't you? The same person who said it when this fucking revolution started. So it's just, it's such bullshit.
Yeah. Maybe it'll be that man among women, Ronda Rousey.
Mike, I want you to weigh in on our debate. We're going to get back to that debate because we have an MMA guy here. He runs the Untethered MMA show Tuesday nights at 6 p.m. Do you think if WWE brought Ronda Rousey in for WrestleMania, do you think she should be the main event?
Well, I mean, obviously a lot of that depends on what kind of angle they can run. I mean, assuming it's something with Stephanie and they can build it right.
Assuming they pay off what they set up at WrestleMania 30.
Right. I don't think that's necessarily a terrible idea. When it happened originally at WrestleMania, I thought it was, I don't think Rousey's the best actress in the world. But, when it happened, we hadn't seen, her most recent run on pay-per-view, and her popularity and her reach has grown exponentially. And I've been a very hard skeptic about what kind of reach she had, and because if you looked at her pay-per-view draws when she was headlining cards, and then the fact that she was being what I thought was protected in the co-main on a couple of Chris Weidman cards. I thought she was popular, and I thought that she had some reach, but I didn't think that she had the kind of reach that Dana White and the UFC were trying to sell. But what we've seen over the last 6 months, and it actually might have started or sort of exploded at WrestleMania, but what we've seen in the last 6 months this year has blown my own expectations out of the water. And I would not be surprised if by next WrestleMania the idea of her headlining with Stephanie McMahon, or what would be great if she could do it with another one of the women wrestlers. But that probably does not sound as crazy as it would have the day after WrestleMania this year.
Having seen the numbers internally, bigger than anything ever for her for when she fought Latest Can. That's what I say, because that's what it is at this point. I don't know what her name is, Betcha Kawada or whatever the fuck. What is it? Betcha Kohea?
Betcha Kohea.
Betcha Kohea. Yeah. So she kicked her ass, and man, the numbers were seriously. They've never been that big for anyone, not even Brock, and Brock was the biggest ever.
Yeah.
She's the biggest draw. So when Dana says now she's the biggest attraction they have, he's not lying anymore.
Yeah. Yeah, and, I think part of it in the past was, he's a promoter and he's trying to sell a product, and I think that was a big part of it. And they might have had metrics that were showing that she was getting to that potential and she was climbing up the ladder. Um, the fact that she drew the numbers that she did against Betch Kohea, who nobody knew, nobody, and she doesn't speak English, and this card was in Brazil. The last card was in Brazil, which has had notorious issues selling. She had that stuff stacked against her, and it wasn't a particularly strong card underneath her either, and she blew it out of the water.
And thankfully, Kohea said some dumb shit that
Yeah,
really
they
helped sell the fight.
Angle out of it.
Yes, they did. Absolutely. And people who think that's not a big part of it are insane. Like that had a legitimate angle, and a legitimate angle that made Kohea a monster heel and Rousey a huge babyface.
Yeah.
To where it was she
could
do the 30-second knockout. What's that?
Which is pretty amazing considering how people approached. I mean, Rousey was playing a heel up till 6 months ago, really.
Well,
and
less than 2 years ago in the second Tate fight, I mean, people were legitimately booing her at the end of the fight. Like it was not, she was not beloved like she is now.
Well, she's kind of a. I almost said like she's kind of. It's questionable. I almost said she's kind of a piece of shit, but like I don't want to be too like hard on her. But Mike, you've kind of spoke on this. She says some really questionable shit.
Yeah, I mean, I wrote a story about why she's not. I think I said it. She's not worth celebrating or something like that. Some ridiculous headline. But she I mean, part of it is that she has that sort of Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant complex where she's just ultra competitive and perhaps close to being a psychopath about it. But she has a lot of garbage opinions on stuff, and the one that I always bring up is the whole Sandy Hook issue. She tweeted one of the conspiracy theory videos and said it was interesting, and then I think she was interacting with I think it was Bloodstained Lane, and there was some back and forth between them where Bloodstained was like, it's great that you're not someone who just accepts what someone tells you, and Rousey responded to it, and between some of the stuff that she said about Fallon Fox, she's not exactly the most likable person, and she doesn't seem like it to me. I've also heard stories from people who've known her and dated her that she's not the most pleasant person to be around all the time. But she's transcended that, and it's interesting too looking at the difference between her and John Jones, because Jones had just as much a dominant run. And had just as many personal faults in terms of social media gaffes and stuff like that. And I think part of it is that Rousey has a better team around her. She has a Hollywood team around her. She has an experienced team around her that I think they really shut down the Sandy Hook stuff real quick. I think they're doing a really good job of marketing her and pushing her and stuff. And I don't think Jones had the sort of people around him to tell him no sometimes and to tell him how to actually to sort of play a pro wrestler about it and really, instead of forcing this humble character that he was trying to portray, like just be himself and be an exaggerated version of himself. Because I think that's what we get with Rousey. I mean, I think part of the reason that people like her so much is because she's so cutthroat and because she's so competitive, and she talks a tough game and she follows through with it.
And now there's this new campaign with the DNB thing, which is super problematic in its own, but she's like becoming an inspiring figure.
Right.
Or an inspirational figure, which is kind of fucking hilarious. Like if John Jones did that, it would just be arrogance at its worst.
Right.
Well,
so
I think to go with what Mike was saying too, it's been a brilliant PR campaign because they didn't go straight to she's an inspirational figure. They sanded down her edges a little bit. She plays sort of like the geek dream girl with how much she loves Pokemon and shit, and they've slowly turned her into America's sweetheart, who can now be an inspirational figure, as opposed to just this, the death machine who had.
What'll be interesting, really, and she's coming back to WWE at some point, right?
Right.
And because she wants to come back, and they badly want her. Like her last fight, I mean, fuck, they got a bunch of buys just because WWE was all over the place doing articles on her. Ava Marie's got millions of social media followers, and she's here's me and Rhonda gear, and everyone check it out, and The Rock, and all these people with huge presence in social media and everywhere else. what'll be interesting is how she handles each fight going forward. Because until now, right, the Kohea thing had the angle where it was, I hope she doesn't kill herself, and then it was, okay, now she turned babyface. Okay, well, now you're going to play that character, right? Or that's what you're going to play going forward. Okay, well, how do you sell the Tate fight? Which is you cannot tell me that fight should have been made. It shouldn't. She beat the shit out of her twice. There's no good reason to make this. Tate has, I guess, done enough in the meantime to get a shot, but it's mostly that, well, Cyborg's not available yet, so we can't do that fight. But what happens when they do get to that fight? How are they going to sell that? What kind of shit is she going to say about someone who she's called an it? Like, as said, really, essentially that Page promo, right? On Tamina in this form, but with Rousey saying it. So I'm kind of curious to see now if she reverts back to who she was before, especially with Misha, who they've had that long-standing rivalry, and that's when she was really, beat her up and won't shake her hand and fuck her. She brought this on herself, and what will that do to her perception of her now that she's, turned babyface and become this certain figure? I wonder how she'll go about selling her fights now.
I mean, she might not have to. I mean, she might be such a force at this point that they can just put her on. At this point, they could probably put her in with anybody in that weight class, and maybe not have the same sort of success that they had with Kohea and that whole story. But she's probably a sort of made person at this point, where she's gonna draw. It is interesting too. How long can it last with if she's finishing everybody in a minute or two? Are fans going to continue wanting to pay $65 to see that?
Yes.
And I think there are a lot of fans that would. For me personally, the only fight I care about is a Cyborg fight, because it's the only one that puts Rousey in any sort of danger. And I say that, and the betting odds have come out, and it's she's still a 4-1 favorite. But to me, that it was the same thing when GSP and Silva were around. The only fight that was compelling at all in terms of like, shit, one of these guys has to lose, was against each other. Sure. Obviously until Chris Weidman came along, and until GSP, almost lost the title to Hendricks. But the only fight that's compelling to me personally as a fight fan is the one with Cyborg. And as a fight fan, as a consumer of the product, I want to see the best fight. I don't really care to see Ronda Rousey just beat up some random lady in the division, just like I didn't care when Anderson Silva beat up Stephan Bonner. There were a bunch of fans that went crazy about that, but like, that's what he's supposed to do to Stephan Bonner. I mean, it's fun to watch, but it's not gonna, I'm not coming all over myself about it. Like, I want to see the best fight, and the best fight is Rousey and Cyborg. So
I think at this point, and I guess we should probably talk about wrestling again at some point.
Yeah.
I mean, I think the appeal of Rousey, at least for probably the next year or so, is not different from like Tiger Woods in his prime. There's a bunch of people who aren't MMA fans, who certainly weren't women's MMA fans, who just want to see like this run of dominance continue. They want to see her. They want to see if she can knock somebody out in 10 seconds next time instead of 12 or whatever it was. So
I feel like it's hey, you got to see her. She's great. And then they watch, and then she is great, and it's, oh, wow, it's all the motivation they need to continue booking her in fights that are not Cyborg, who would probably knock her out, and that'd be that.
I mean, I don't even know, for the trilogy fight with Tate, I don't even know that you mentioned Misha Tate's name in the marketing. You just talk about
I can't wait to see what they do with it.
You just talk about Ronda Rousey, ESPY Award winner, bane of Floyd Mayweather's existence, blah, 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 and just let that be the story.
Yeah, that's the most annoying story, and other than Deflategate and the Brady stuff, the Wood Rousey Mayweather stuff is just stop writing this shit. Like, I know why you. I thank God I don't have to cover MMA anymore.
Because you would have to write it if you were.
Yeah, they'd be wanting me to write it, and I would just do a post and make fun of it the whole way. If I just I'd find a way to be like, I was told to do this and I hate it and it's stupid. Because who cares? I don't.
Because it's never gonna happen. Yeah, it's just noise.
Just like in pro wrestling, like I have trouble. We don't advocate, do we? I don't think we advocate for intergender matches much.
No, I mean, I think there's a way to tell that story and to have an entertaining match out of that in like an indie setting, if that's your
I
Yeah.
just always it's always weird to me. You know, Lana they did the gimmick. Lana was Rusev get in the ring, excuse me, and then he comes in and he starts like approaching her, and it's like Dolph. You know, it was a master plan for her to bring Dolph back, and then Dolph runs in to save the day, and it's like, okay, what was going to happen if Dolph's music was like another minute late? Was Rusev like just what, gonna slap her around? Like, is that really what we're doing here? Like, I don't know. And there's a part of me too that's, and Mike, I'd love to hear your opinion on this because this is something that we, especially on Cageside, I think everyone in the community struggles with. What is acceptable levels of heat to get? Because I feel like even saying that, it's Rusev's the heel, and if you tell the story right, I feel like you should basically be able to go as far as you need to get heat. As long as you're telling the story that that person is wrong and they're going to ultimately be the one who's downed in the end.
Well, it's interesting. I was watching the latest NXT right before we did the show here, and Alexa Bliss slapped Aiden English and Simon Gotch in the face, and my girlfriend said, "I wish someone would just hit her," and I'm like, whoa, like, they as in WWE, they're gonna take heat for that if someone just lays her out. And she's like, yeah, but she's hit like 8 guys at this point. Like, somebody has to fight back. And then I'm like, well, yeah, but they don't want to take that heat. And she's like, yeah, I know. So it's one of those things where,
yeah, but you can't do that because then what message does that send? If a woman hits a guy enough times and she's a heel, the right thing to do is to smack her down. Like, there's no way you could do that.
Right.
Ring of Honor does it all the time.
Huh?
Ring of Honor does it all the time.
I don't watch Ring of Honor, and
they do. And it's a big problem that I have with the product. But even Maria Kanellis as a heel, routine, she gets supercut by the Young Bucks all the time, and they take the story there. I mean, and their excuse is that it's fake, but it's bullshit.
I think for me, there's always a place for stuff like that, for stuff that's pushing the boundaries or stuff that's a little taboo. But if you're going to do it, you have to do it with a purpose. You can't just you can't just show men hitting women just because. I think that happened a lot during the Attitude Era, and it's probably a good thing we're not in the Attitude Era anymore. But if you show a heel hitting a face woman, to me that's okay. So long as in the end the payoff is the heel gets what's coming to him.
Right.
And you have to sort of portray it like that. Just like in a movie, like you can show a murder or a rape, and you can show it very graphically. But if you do, there has to be a payoff for it. There has to be a reason why in the plot that you're doing it and why you're showing it. I think that's kind of getting off of wrestling again for a second. I think that's why Game of Thrones took a lot of heat for some of the rape stuff that they showed, because it didn't always play into what was going on in the plot and what some of the characters' motivations were. So again, yeah, I think I don't think there's anything wrong with it broadly. But if you're just sort of doing it wantonly, just for for shock value, or because you're not really thinking about it and you're sort of being blasé, like, that's where the issue is, and that's where the problem is.
So, like the Paul Bearer stuff with Punk and Undertaker.
You got to refresh me on that.
Well, that's what I was going to say. That's a good example that where in the WrestleMania match that CM Punk had with Undertaker, it was just after Paul Bearer, Taker's manager, had died in real life. And Punk and Paul Heyman, to get heat on themselves as the villains, did a thing where they stole the urn with the ashes, and Punk poured them on himself, and these were supposedly this man's consecrated.
Poured them on Undertaker. Heyman dressed up like Bear and did the yeah and came out like him. And I remember on Cageside it was like a lot of people were like, okay, this is fucked up. That dude just died. And it was Undertaker's legitimate, you know what I mean? Like
mentor
really
and
doing
friend,
this?
Yeah.
And but then other people were like, yeah, but, and the family had come out and said they were okay with it, that they okayed it, that WWE went to them and were like, hey, if we do this, and then they later said that it was very difficult to watch on TV, which of course I imagine it would be, and then Punk, of course, he in interviews is, I'm a sociopath, and if Smarks, are you listening? Fuck you. And we never heard anything from Undertaker, but of course we assume he was okay with it because he did it.
Right.
But the ultimate was obviously that Punk would lose, that he would do all that shit, and Undertaker would, at WrestleMania, Undertaker would get really pissed and tombstone him and beat him, and then that's that.
Right.
That's what happened. Yeah.
So it's like, you're good with all that.
Yeah, I mean, again, that definitely is pushing some boundaries and definitely pushing the envelope on good taste. But if the family was on board, especially if they approached the family and they were respectful about it, and if the family was agreeing to it, and it wasn't under duress, it wasn't like they felt like they needed to, they weren't pressured into it. As long as everyone involved was okay with it, it's uncomfortable. It's uncomfortable, but stories sometimes should make you feel uncomfortable. They should make you think about that stuff.
It's supposed to be uncomfortable. You're supposed to be like, I can't fucking believe they're doing this. But there's a part of it too where it's like, at what point are you servicing a story where you're uncomfortable? Because the idea is to be uncomfortable, but feel like, man, I want Undertaker to beat this guy, right? But it's instead you toe that line where you're like, okay, I just don't want to watch this. Like, that guy just died. I was always a big fan. This is just fucked up. Because it is, there's that, for fans like us especially, because we're so in tune with everything and we don't really look at it like, say, like the Rousey Kohea thing, where it was like, okay, she said the suicide stuff and Rousey's dad committed suicide. That's really fucked up. Kind of really hope Rousey just knocks her ass out. And then Rousey did knock her out, and it was everyone was satisfied with that result, and you could feel good about it, and that's all cool. Well, wrestling, obviously, it's a work. So it's, you know what I mean? It's not the same. I feel like there's just not the same emotional attachment. And I don't know that you can get that by doing an angle like that.
Well, and I would also wonder, too, how Paul Bearer would have thought about it when he was alive.
We got blocked by the Hurricane on Twitter because he was saying, I knew him, and he would have been okay with it. And I'm like, okay, even if you knew him, I don't think you can speak for him. I don't think that's a fair thing to do.
I thought that was part of the family's justification too, is that they thought that he would want to be part of the show in any way.
Yeah, well, he's business, so just go ahead and run the angle. And it's like, okay, but I don't know. There's just, people change too much throughout, you know what I mean? Shit happens and things are different, and I just feel like it's dangerous to ever try to speak for someone, especially when they're dead. When it's but I don't know. It's also like, to go back to Louis C.K., because I've been watching his specials, you're dead. You don't matter anymore.
Right.
So in a way, it's like, well, get heat, I guess. If all the people who are alive are okay with it, then fuck it.
True. Yeah, and I thought a lot about that.
We haven't talked at all about SummerSlam.
No, I know. I don't want to. So be quiet. I want to talk. Okay, fine. Yeah, let's talk about SummerSlam or TakeOver. One of the two.
That's a nice main event you've got going. Undertaker and Brock Lesnar.
Oh,
It'd be a real shame if someone interfered in it. Oh wait, that's gotta be Kane. That's what's gonna happen, folks. Are you guys okay with that?
Well,
so they're gonna protect Lesnar by having Kane get involved to help his brother win.
I don't know that it's to protect Brock, but it totally makes sense for both the story they're telling, the story I'm telling, and that if they can protect Brock and they can also get Undertaker's win and set up a WrestleMania 32 match.
So how do you see this play? So Kane, how does this fit into your midlife crisis story?
Well, it fits in because, again, he needs to do anything to win. Right. Anything. Okay? Up to and including recruiting his brother to come back to help him win, because nothing's too low at this point. Remember, he's so far detached from what he was and what he wants to be or how he wants to see himself that he's willing to do. Again, he's shown that he's willing to do anything. He's shown that he'll do the nut shots. He's shown that he'll go as far as he needs to go. And I imagine in the match what they would do then is they would have the two have like a battle, and Undertaker would be losing this gradually, but he'd be losing the battle. And eventually, he would call on Kane. And at the point where it looks like he might lose, he would call on Kane, and Kane would come in and help him win. And maybe Brock gets the better of Kane, right? And it looks like he's going to win, but then Undertaker ultimately wins, and then he feels... So he can try to justify to himself, well, I won, even if it's horseshit. And then Brock can justify, no, you didn't win, and then they can go to WrestleMania 32. And
Hell in a Cell.
It would make sense for... Again, every story that you could come up with for this match. It makes total sense for Kane to come back because Brock's the one who took him out.
I know, but that's like a babyface thing then, which otherwise you're telling the story where Taker's sort of a dick.
That's the whole thing they're doing, Sean.
I know, but that's what I'm saying is it's confusing that, like, if Taker had come back to, like, because his brother had been put on, I don't know.
No, the point is that Taker will do anything to win.
Right, he's willing to recruit this guy that he's tried to bury alive multiple times.
Exactly.
I know, I get
this dude that he feuded with, because again,
here's my question.
Lost his identity. The only way to get it back is to beat Brock, and he's at that point when you're that compromised. You cannot deal with what you see when you look in the mirror, that you have to figure out a way, and you don't think rationally in situations like that. You're desperate. You will do whatever it is that you need to do to get what you think. The means don't matter. The end matters. So that's what he'll do. And Kane will be good with it. He'll go along because this is the dude who took him out of action. And, Yeah, I just imagine Brooklyn is going to be really fucking pissed when Kane's music hits. And they're going to be, oh, this fucking asshole. Like, this is what we're doing, guys, and it's the last match, and yeah.
Am I the only one,
Yes.
I've never been a huge Undertaker guy. Growing up, I liked him, but I know there were people, friends of mine who were wrestling fans who really bought into the Undertaker thing. But I just was not excited at all when he came back, and maybe it's partly his age, and just how just how he looks, just how old he looks, just in his face, but also he looks his age. It's hard for me to believe that he can actually hang with not only the other wrestlers in WWE, but Lesnar himself. Well, and this whole thing, there's always obviously a certain amount of disbelief that you have to have going into professional wrestling, but this to me is just like I can't buy into this at all.
That's why Kane works even better there.
Well, here's my question though, and this is what I was going to ask: is take the kayfabe out of it for a second. If you're the road agent for this, how do you book this so that we are sure that Taker doesn't end up on Queer Street 10 seconds into it like he did at Mania? I mean, how do you protect Taker from getting hurt in this match with the way Lesnar likes to work?
And Undertaker's entire reasoning behind giving the streak to Lesnar was that Lesnar's a legitimate shoot-fighting champion.
Right.
That outside of kayfabe, that would be the guy who could beat him. So then he should be the guy who beats him inside of kayfabe. But then if you're operating with that,
you do that as the last story. Then you don't do that with a sequel.
Exactly. If you're operating with that being, and Mike, what you said, like, are you the only one? No, you're not. Like on Cageside, it's almost unanimous. Everyone is like, why is he here? Like, what in the fucking, like, yeah, we hear the gong, and can I say real quick, people, stop saying dong. It's not dong. Please say it's gong.
But it's funny because dong also means penis.
Yeah. I'm so glad you used the term penis. But it's funny because dong also means penis. I like talking about it.
I like to say penis. It's a funny word.
I don't even know what I was saying now. Holy shit. No, yeah. So that's like the story
about the crowd, the Cageside reaction to Taker.
Yeah, everyone is unanimous in that. And
I think. I think that Taker's the Triple H HBK portion of the streak years swung public opinion into Taker's favor in a big way, and with a few years after that, now people are starting to actually reflect on his whole career and going, yeah, he's okay. It's a great entrance. There's been some great matches. He deserves props for longevity, but was he ever like the greatest worker? Was he ever the best promo? No.
No, yeah, I also agree with that too. If it weren't for Shawn Michaels, he never would have had a great match in his career. Like, I mean, Triple H, yeah, kind of, but like Shawn is pretty much the guy that helped, and then the streak becoming what it is. What really sucks about this, the more I think about it too, and putting my angle on it, and I'm just going to ride that into the ground, is I wish they'd drop the dead man shit. Don't go American Badass, Biker Taker, because Biker Taker remains one of the worst things that's ever happened in wrestling. Shut up. But just, you remember, what was it, WrestleMania 17 maybe? They did the interview backstage with Austin and Rock, and it was so good. And Austin was like, I need to beat you, Rock. Like, why couldn't we have like Undertaker strip away all the bullshit and just be like, you know what, I'm back because I have to beat him. Essentially, what they did with Shawn. That whole story they did after he lost to Taker at WrestleMania 25 and he came back that whole year where he had the identity crisis and he didn't know what to do. It's the same story.
Yep.
Wow, I can't believe I didn't make that connection until just now. And then he got in the Rumble and it gave a whole big story for the Rumble and then he got eliminated and it was like, oh my God, that was my only shot to get a match with the guy. And it's, you know what I mean? They did such a good job telling that. Why wouldn't you just have Taker come out, fuck the gong, the dong, the fucking lights going out, the stupid I've smoked too many cigarettes voice, the fucking silly-ass Grim Reaper promos, and just come out and be like, I need to beat him. Like, I don't even know who the fuck I am anymore. Like, the streak's gone. You know, the hardcore fans like us, we don't care. The casual fans like Mike, he doesn't care. Literally nobody gives a shit about this guy anymore because of the fact that the streak is gone. So why not just have him acknowledge as much and say, I don't even know who the fuck I am because of this, but again, he doesn't want to accept that. And so it's the only way to get back any semblance of who he is, his own identity, again, is to beat Brock. So why couldn't they just go with that?
Well, and you know, from my point of view, the story that I would like to see told is a guy who thinks he still has it, thinks he can beat this guy, and comes out and just, you know, Lesnar basically does what he did with Cena and just absolutely demolishes him. And, you know, the story is, you know, there's a time in your career where you're done, and someone's going to put you out.
And at WrestleMania 30, he literally went backstage and collapsed. That's a shoot. And Vince is, we need some help here. And they took him out in an ambulance, and Vince went with him and left the main event of WrestleMania to Triple H and Stephanie, who were going to be involved in the angle in the ring, to produce the rest of the show. I mean, that's a shoot. That's what happened. Play into that. Undertaker will die for this. And it's Brock Lesnar, the destroyer of worlds.
He might die.
Brock Lesnar. Yeah, he is fucking become death. So, yeah, I agree with that, Mike, where you play that up. I'll die for this.
And there should be people telling him, you shouldn't do this.
Yes,
you
absolutely.
You should not do this. Brock Lesnar is going to kill you. You know, you saw what he did to you last time. He's only gotten better. He's only gotten more meaner, and he's angry because he doesn't have the title. And now you've come back and you've distracted him. He is going to do things to you that you have never experienced before.
Although you couldn't do that because then he'd have to be the babyface.
Well, sure, but I mean,
Shawn wasn't necessarily the babyface when they told the same story.
Yeah,
that's true, I guess.
And are you married to Lesnar having to play the babyface here, or, you know?
No.
Because, like I said, if you tell the story and the story is Undertaker loses and this is what a man looks like when he's on his way out, like, it's a sad ending, but I think it's an appropriate ending.
That's how it has to end. That's when I wrote about, we did the My Favorite WrestleMania series, which is one of my favorite things I've ever done for the site, was the Shawn thing. Like, that's the whole message there. Like, Shawn Michaels is the greatest wrestler of all time. There's no doubt. Like, he's the best ever at this. And their whole thing, that's true both in and out of story as far as I'm concerned. But in the story, yeah, Mr. WrestleMania. And the whole thing is, you know, and he's saying, if I can't beat him, I don't have a career. Yeah. There's nothing worth this. And that's the whole thing about, like, to me, it's like, that's a life lesson.
Yeah.
Like, look, it doesn't matter how good you are. You will lose. You cannot win every time. You will fail. But you have to always try, because that's what living is. So you go try, and then you fail, and then that's that. You accept that.
Yeah, it's the same reason for me why I enjoyed, you know, when I watched the Lesnar Undertaker match and Lesnar won. It was one of the first things that I had watched live since I had gotten back into watching WWE semi-regularly. And, you know, part of the reason I love that story is because, you know, all streaks come to an end. And I know there's a lot of people that have that nostalgic feeling of they want that sort of, you know, dynasty to live on in history. But, you know, I enjoyed it, and I thought it was great that Lesnar did it, because, again, like, even at WrestleMania 30, like, I couldn't believe that the Undertaker would beat Brock Lesnar. You know, like, this is a near 50-year-old man against a in pro wrestling terms, still in his prime, in his physical athletic prime. Like, there's just no way I can't buy into this. So the fact that Lesnar did what he did, like, I thought that was a perfect story.
It really was.
And I would, the problem comparing, and now I'm never going to not be able to compare this to the HBK retirement story, is that was a story told over 2 years, tying it back into our New Japan talk at the top, told over 2 years. I mean, the Royal Rumble swerve or twist in the story, I mean, I remember being like, my jaw just dropped, because I just assumed that the jaded bastard that I am just assumed I knew this story. Shawn was going to win the Rumble so that he got his shot at Mania. When he didn't, I was stunned, and then he had to interrupt the Elimination Chamber, and that was his way to get in. But then even then, Taker put the career on the line, and I mean, but that was a story that was told over. And if you count the Triple H matches, where they ended up bringing Shawn back in, that's a 4-year fucking story. We've gotten out of nowhere. We had no idea Taker was coming back. We thought he was fine with everything that was going on. Then we find out last month that he's not fine with it. And now we're supposed to have a death match with all this on the line. It's not. They didn't earn it.
Yeah. No, they didn't. And I don't know. I mean, the reaction to the what I put up in the recap was unanimously like, wow, this is way better. But they didn't flesh that out at any point. You're right. Like, that was more me kind of seeing the story that I want them to be telling.
Right.
I don't think they are necessarily, but it still works.
It's there, but but like you guys were saying, it would be so much more interesting and so much more relatable if we were getting the story of, Undertaker, the man, not his still coming out on Monday and cutting the rest in peace promo.
Yeah, Shawn accepted it. At WrestleMania 26, Undertaker did the jumping tombstone, and Shawn got up and he accepted it. That it was the build-up to him needing to accept that, and like Mike said, someone's going to come along who's going to make you accept it. Like, that is an inevitability. The midlife crisis stuff we talk about, and you start doing things, and I can be a young man again, and the reality is you're not. You're in your 40s now, and at some point you hit a wall and you just accept it. So Brock is the perfect guy to do that with. But the problem is they're not going to do that here, right? Because he's not going out at SummerSlam. He's already been advertised for WrestleMania 32, so we know he's coming back. So this is a transitional match, and that's a bad thing in the sense of the booking is going to have to be open-ended, and it's how they're going to close the show, and I don't think it's going to go over very well with the crowd that it's happening in front of, especially with the build that's been there.
Yeah.
So I guess we should do the other matches real quick. Is there any other match that you care about, Mike, on that show? Cena versus Rollins, maybe?
I think Cena Rollins will be fun. I think Owens and Cesaro will be fun, but there's nothing that, like...
Nothing pops.
As someone who again, watches pay-per-view to pay-per-view, there's nothing really here that, like, really blows me out of the water. Even the main event, like, because of the stuff that we just talked about, like, I always want to watch Brock Lesnar. Like, he has a presence to him that is so unique and so interesting that I will watch him almost every single time.
Yes.
But from what I know about the story, it doesn't really do it for me. But there's some matches on here that I will appreciate for the wrestling. But I'm not like super invested in this card.
That's interesting to hear because they're counting on this to be the WrestleMania of the summer.
Right. And
you're looking at the card and going, nothing's really popping out.
Well, Orton and Sheamus, we just saw that, and I wasn't, I'm not I don't dislike either guy, but I'm not a huge fan of either guy. The Ryback Big Show Miz match, like, I really could do without. Wyatt, Harper, Reigns, and Ambrose, that might actually be fun to watch, but I haven't really been following that story. The tag team title match is one of those things that seems thrown together.
There's no story for any of these fucking matches where you're like, well, I haven't really been following the story, and I'm like, what is the story? And I'm like, there isn't one.
Well, the thing is, the Stardust Stephen Amell stuff actually might be one of the only stories that I sort of know, and I saw an interview that Stardust did, I don't remember where it was, but it was real fun and like in character, and he did a really good job with it. And Stardust is one of those guys that when he started, I think he had a lot of heat and people were having fun with it, and then it sort of died out. But I still, because I don't watch every week, it's still fresh to me. So
Is-
I like watching him have fun with that character still.
Is the interview you're talking about the one where he's like, I've been waiting for a hero, and these sons of bitches aren't showing up?
Yeah, that is the one. Yes.
That interview was awesome. I think I meant to do something on it, and then I just totally forgot, and I was going to send it to Sean, and I totally forgot to do that too. But yeah, Sean's much better with this stuff than me. But yeah, someone did a post on the site and kind of laid out a fan post, all the reasons why it's such a great feud, and they're dead on the money. Like, it's way better than like 90% of what they're doing everywhere else, where the actual creative team of 58 writers, and no one can come up with a fucking coherent arc, like just anything at all, really. I don't know why Los Matadors are in that match. I don't know why Lucha Dragons are in that match. I don't even know why. I think New Day's in the match just because, I mean, Big E looks pretty hot when he gyrates. I really think that's it. Like, I don't, and they clap.
Mm-hmm.
Boy, I just cannot come up with anything for any of
There's
this.
no
Like, I'm
story
legitimately, what's the story with the Shield Wyatt thing? I mean,
That
did
one's so
the thing-
frustrating because they were telling one story with Bray and Roman, and then they just stopped. And now it's like the Wyatts are just an accessory to the fact that we're wondering if Dean
Roman and Dean
Roman,
are real close, guys.
they're either going to kiss or break up. I don't know what's going to
They're
happen.
brothers, man. They are
know.
brothers. And Dean
know.
knows how Roman likes his coffee, water, and beer.
Cold and hot and something else.
Cold and hot, and nobody gives a shit. And then Roman's just so cheesy. And then it's that kind of stuff. That's the thing that kills me about WWE is they concern themselves with things like not the story, because and that's all I think we care about, right? And I understand that they have to consider other factors, but I don't like it that the other factors they consider are we need to put Roman with Dean just because Brooklyn might boo the fuck out of him if he's on his own. I hate that that's like a reasoning behind why they would, okay, we have to figure out something for a tag team match now because we just can't have Roman do a singles match. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
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 I mean, that's why I don't think that either one of those guys is turning on each other, because I think keeping Dean with Roman keeps him over until they decide to try to rebuild him for Mania next year.
And that's happening too, by the way. They're going to do that starting in like Survivor Series or so.
And can I ask you guys something about Roman? Why does he still come out from the crowd?
Because
they wanted to retain all of the characteristics of the Shield.
And just put them all in
They
him.
were so over, and they wanted to keep them with the guy that they wanted to get the most over from the group, and it just backfired.
Yeah, and because the crowds have turned on him, it just makes it look even weirder and worse than it should be. And for him to do it by himself, like, I don't understand what's the character motivation for him to do that still.
Why did DDP used to do it?
Well, he was of the people, man.
I guess that's true. He was the People's Champ, the WCW People's Champ. Don't do the diamond, Sean.
Sorry. Well, in the reality era kayfabe of it, now he's doing it because he wants to prove that he's not afraid of being hit in the head with plastic briefcases.
Yeah.
I mean,
I thought it was Bray.
That's what he's like, I'm going to keep walking through the ring because Rollins is a pussy for not walking through the ring.
I thought it was Bray hitting me with a kendo stick. I was ready to take him out. God, he's so bad at going in and out of kayfabe in his interviews. He's almost as bad as Sasha, too, blaming the fans.
She's horrible.
For literally everything that goes wrong.
I think you're exaggerating, maybe taking that a little bit. Yeah. How about Saturday night? What do we got? Who's excited?
I'm not excited at all for the Brooklyn card, to be honest with you.
Really?
Yeah, you know what? I just feel like the Balor-Owen stuff should be fun, but, man, I'm not usually, okay, it's too predictable, but, I mean, it is. We know what's going to happen. And
do you guys think Owens goes 0 for 2 on the weekend?
Oh, for sure. He's done, dude. Like, they're done with him.
Wow.
They are absolutely done with him. It's pretty clear. He's going to lose to Balor, and then he's probably going to lose really ugly to Cesaro. And you know what I mean? And I don't really, Bayley, we've talked extensively about, I've gotten myself in quite a bit of trouble talking heat on Bayley. I just don't see it. I don't know if it's going to translate to money down the road, but that crowd is going to fucking blow the roof off that drum.
Yeah, I think she's in a position where I think in NXT it'll be fine, but I have a hard time seeing how she's going to translate to the big show. Like,
Thank you.
Without, and I like Bailey and I like watching her in NXT, but and sort of like Tyler Breeze, like I love Tyler Breeze and I love what he's done with that character. Again, another guy who seems to be having a lot of fun with it and really sort of trying to find the boundaries, and he's done a fantastic job since I've started watching. But I don't know how that character works, just like Adam Rose and
Dallas.
Yeah, and how those characters adjust in the big show. I'm not sure.
It's great that you can get over in front of 35 people at a college, but I mean, doing it in front of 12,000 on a Raw.
You're a dick.
I know dude. It's like but it's the truth too, where it's like.
Well, but not to have this whole debate again, but again, it's not that it's impossible to get over in front of a bigger crowd, but it's impossible to get over within the booking universe that Vince McMahon has set up.
Yeah, we talked about how they could have tweaked the Rose character. He should have come out through the crowd. It should have been an interactive experience to where everyone could be a Rosebud. So they'd come to shows, and you'd hope that like Rose would come through your section, and you'd dress accordingly. People would show up in fucking cheeseburger uniforms just to be a member of the Rosebuds, and maybe they'd hand out some shirts, and he'd come through the crowd, and then it'd be a big party, and like they could have done some really cool shit with that.
Yeah.
Instead, he was just like a creepy, rapey, really awful idiot with a bunch of misfit idiots who I just really badly wanted Brock Lesnar to F5 the entire crew. It was just stupid.
Well, one gimmick on the NXT in NXT that I don't understand is the vaudevillain stuff. Like I don't get the appeal of those characters. They seem like fine enough wrestlers, but I just don't understand. What's the long term with them? Like, where do they go?
There isn't
one. And that's one of the few instances where even like NXT, and it's what I think we'll eventually look back on as like the golden age of NXT, they fucked those guys up because they were sort of faces, they were sort of heels. I think if there's money in anybody, I think Simon Gotch could be a fun like mid card guy who
like a little Guido kind of guy.
Yeah. I mean, he lives the gimmick. Talk about a guy having fun with the gimmick. He lives that fucking gimmick. His Twitter's amazing if you don't follow him on there. He's hilarious. And he does some pretty impressive things in the ring.
It's kind of annoying for me. I seriously, I watched 5 minutes of those and was immediately, I'm not watching this again. I'm done with this shit. And Blake and Murphy, too. The tag team scene in NXT is really... Enzo and Big Cass are fucking incredible.
No, you see, you're wrong again already.
Oh, my God.
See, I actually don't mind Blake and Murphy that much.
I think with Alexa, that gimmick
with Alexa. Without Alexa, they're just...
Oh, I agree, yeah.
Well, I love that Blake and Murphy have become Michael Hayes and Val Venus.
They're the Barbie on the Australian one. They're worthless, but that's the gimmick. Is that they're
worthless? They are.
They're just
Alexa. Yeah, and that gave Alexa life too.
Is using for things.
And that gave Alexa a new life too, because I really didn't see her going anywhere either. Yeah. But Enzo and Big Cass, and
so I would say the only thing what I would disagree with you there. I agree that Vaudevillains is a dead end gimmick. Aiden English is probably somebody who would be cut if he wasn't engaged to a Guerrero.
Oh, Jesus.
I don't know about Blake and Murphy at long term. If they keep her with Alexa, I think Alexa has a really high ceiling as basically their Maria knockoff. She's the evil wrestler / manager. But I think there's a chance for the tag division in NXT to be what picks up the baton from the women as its like calling card. Because I think there's Enzo and Cass, there's Chad Gable and Jason Jordan, which if you haven't watched those guys, they're great. Gable's channeling Kurt Angle in 1999 brilliantly.
I am sold on both those guys.
They're awesome.
They obviously still have a lot of years to go in terms of what their ceiling is going to be, but both those guys are super athletes. They both seem already super comfortable in front of a camera in terms of talking. I think the sky's the limit with both of those guys.
I think Scott Dawson and Dash Wilder, who they need some better names, but they've got like kind of a brain busters kind of thing going on that could be really cool. There's some there's a lot of I hate to admit it, but the fucking Zack Ryder Mojo Rawley pairing is kind of fun. I don't want to watch it a lot, but as part of a big tag scene, they have a place.
Sean. Bro me. Bro. Seriously, that's a real shirt.
Yeah, I know.
I just want Blue Pants to come back and wear the shirt they put out.
Well, Blue Pants is coming back. She's going to join the Vaudevillains to stand up to Alexa on Saturday. You got my guarantee. Yeah, I think that's good.
Your guarantee.
So Fagan's girlfriend will be happy. Someone will show up to slap Alexa.
No, I think Fagan's girlfriend is advocating for domestic violence.
I know she is, but we're going to compromise in the spirit of.
Speaking of Mike, are you okay? I mean, are you in a safe place tonight? Then
yes, I am. Thank you.
We're not keeping you up too late.
No.
You're gonna come to bed and be like, "Where the fuck have you been?" I was talking wrestling with those one guys.
She would love to be talking with us. So
get her on. Sean's old lady wanted
to. No, Gino just wants to talk to significant other. He just wants to talk to wags.
What's her name?
Gino's all about.
I'm not gonna tell you her name on the air.
Okay. Sean was the same way. He's like, she's not okay. If she comes on, not gonna be on camera. I'm like, well, yeah, of course, that's fine.
Very smart thing, and I gave away Julie's name early, and now Gino
now he
says it out of his mouth.
No, I don't. That's not on me. Don't put that evil on me, Ricky Bobby.
So are they gonna feed Samoa Joe to Baron Corbin?
Wow, I know, right?
You know what I heard?
I think
this will make it into a future rumor roundup maybe tomorrow. It's possible Joe never makes the main roster.
I don't think he will at this point. I don't think they know what to do with him on NXT.
Well, he almost killed Tyson Kidd, so.
He did not.
Yeah. Like, that's a legit, apparently that's a legit, like, the only reason he survived that with just the broken neck.
I know that the injury was that
because
bad.
He's so strong.
But
His neck is so muscular that had that been you, you're dead. Well, like, that's legitimately the story that apparently is the reality of it. So he almost killed Tyson Kidd.
It looked exactly like every other muscle buster I've ever seen Joe give, though. That's what I don't understand.
I don't either, but, I mean, the guy almost died still.
I think, to answer Mike's question, I think they have been building Corbin to what end, I have no idea, for fucking years. So they should put him over. They put him over Rhino, and it never went anywhere. Not that Rhino's Joe, but...
Right. Well, and the thing with Corbin that it's so frustrating is, when I started watching about a year and a half ago, like, he was doing the same stuff he's doing now.
He was doing it as a babyface then, but yeah.
Yeah, right, exactly. I mean, the crowd turned on him. He's had to sort of change it. But like, he's going to have to lose to somebody at some point, and it's like every other guy that gets built like this. Like, once they lose, they have to be able to prove themselves as a wrestler and as a talent. And I just don't see what Baron Corbin brings to the table. The few opportunities we've seen him talk, it hasn't been great. And he's not particularly stunning in the ring.
There are a certain segment of girls, I've seen them on Twitter and stuff, on our Twitter at least, who really like him.
I can tell you my girlfriend is not one of them.
Yeah,
he shows up on screen. He shows up on screen and we both just groan.
Yeah, I mean, I'm like you, I don't see it. But here's a good question for you then. Do you see, because I don't, I look at even the big names. Like, I'm even scared for Finn. And I think Balor could be, I'd fucking bring him up to the main roster, put the belt on him.
You'd fucking, period. So
he's got a body made for sin.
Watching NXT tonight, obviously he's extremely talented. I'm super into him. But the promo that he cut with Owens,
He can't talk.
Yeah, like, he doesn't sound like a potential like a future WWE champion. He hasn't put the fear of God in you.
It's kind of funny we talk about Rousey and I'm like, oh, main eventer with WrestleMania, but if she was actually a WWE talent, oh my God, she's a badass killer in real life. But she couldn't when she.
You know what they do with Rousey?
Paul Heyman.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, she had a great line. She had a great line at WrestleMania, like, any ring that I step into becomes my ring, which that's a really good line, but she fucking whispered it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're in an open air stadium, and I was talking to people who were in the front row, didn't fucking hear what she said.
Yeah.
It's like, come on. So yeah, she wouldn't be, but yeah, that's the book on Balor, and he keeps teasing a Heyman alliance.
Well, that's that's how he got over in New Japan, was as a heel who had muscle and talkers around him. That he was presence. And a badass in the ring.
Put him in the Divas Revolution. Just put him with all the other...
Would he be on Team PCBB then, or how would that...
Oh, I like the sound of that. Him him and Becky. What's that called? What's that term
Shipping.
you used to
You
use?
ship
Shipping.
them. Yeah,
I ship them.
Yep,
I fucking hate that new age lingo, but I ship them.
It's not really that new age. It's been around for about a decade, but
Don't ever correct me, Sean.
yeah, who's the old man now?
Definitely you. You're like 60.
It's still me, I think. I think I got some gray in here right now.
So other than Finn, I mean, do you see any star? Sami Zayn, Itami. Do you see a single star, breakout star in NXT?
Yeah, I'm assuming you're asking me in terms of up on the main roster.
Yeah, some guy, someone who they'll get up to Vince and, oh shit, this is the guy.
You know, I see.
So no.
I mean, well, I mean, I think there's guys that, you know, if things break the right way, they could. You know, I think Sammy has a certain, you know, very old school babyface qualities to him.
Bret Hart.
Yeah, that's sort of just like, in a lot of ways, similar to Bayley. Like, it would be very hard to turn one of them heel. But again, there has to be tweaks made up in the main roster.
And the right stories to be told.
Right, exactly. And, you know, I think, you know, one of the things that may ultimately prove beneficial with this Sami Zayn injury is that when he goes up to the main roster, he has a feud waiting for him if they don't totally fuck Kevin Owens over. I mean, they have a built-in feud for both of them right when he comes up.
Well, he's half fucked right now, so.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And that's, you know.
Do you have a problem with the focus that they've put on his weight?
You know, again, because I don't
watch the regular shows. So
because I don't watch the regular show. You know, I know about it and I've heard about it.
They make fun of it, and they use the babyface because he's a heel. The babyfaces now make fun of his weight. Like they'll say walk Owens walk because he walks out of matches, and then they'll be like, well, actually maybe you should walk more Owens. Stuff like that, and then someone brought a fat Owens fat sign, and then the cameras were focusing a little bit more on it than you know. So I mean, what do you think of that?
I mean, again, going back to what we were talking about earlier with doing stuff to make the plot work, you know, it's not a good look when the baby faces are you know, fat shaming somebody. You know, that doesn't make sense. But
it's shit talking the heel. That's giving the heel his comeuppance.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, if the comeuppance I want to see is in the ring. I mean, sure. I want to see, you know, Owens show some ass in the ring, because you know again, I didn't watch Ring of Honor, so when Kevin Owens came in to NXT, that was my first experience with him, and he's blown me away. I mean, anytime he picks up a microphone, I am like in stitches.
He's great.
And the stuff that he was saying on this latest episode of NXT, where he ripped the shit out of Full Sail, was just brilliant, and just, you know, like to be able to take a crowd as sort of smarky as Full Sail is, and to make them boo you like he gets them to do.
Legit.
And legit, not like we don't like you, but like we're gonna boo you because of the character. I mean, that's amazing work.
He's great. He's the quintessential heel.
Yeah, and you know, it sounds like he really picked it up from Austin, who told him just constantly talk shit.
Run your mouth, kid.
Yeah, in the ring, on promos, just constantly run your mouth. And I think you sort of run with that and really done a good job to incorporate it into his character.
Yeah, I particularly liked when he was in there with Cena, and Cena did his typical thing. And Owens' response was, okay, I'm going to ignore everything you just said. Immediately after, I was totally in love with the guy. That is a perfect response to literally anything John Cena says.
Well, I think the promo that if folks haven't seen it, go watch his promo from NXT last night. That was one of the best go-home promos I've ever seen, and the line where he called Full Sail to John Cena wrestling fans is like, it's so smart.
And his explanation of it was brilliant too.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it was so smart. And
it wasn't a very good go-home show up to that point either.
I thought it opened and ended as a good go-home show, and in between it was. I thought the Bayley Sasha Banks contract signing was great, but
you know one thing about
obviously doesn't vary. So
one thing about NXT that like I could see a lot of people being frustrated with, but I like it because it connects me to watching wrestling as a kid. Is, you know, it's an hour-long show, and you know, half or more than half of the show often is just a squash match.
Yep.
And it's just putting guys over, and I like that because I like, you know, one of the things that can get sort of frustrating for me and tiresome is every match is 50-50 up until the finish.
Hate it.
And it gets very repetitive and very boring, and it's not,
That's
not
why
that
Brock's refreshing.
Yeah, exactly. And and it's not that I need professional wrestling to look exactly like actual fighting, but I like when it approaches that more and more. I don't like when guys hit a suplex and then stand around for 3 minutes, and it's like, well, why wouldn't you just follow up? Like, why wouldn't you just keep that pace and keep working? And that's sort of like why I like Chris Benoit so much when he, before he became a psychopath. But when he was wrestling, it was 100% all the time, and there was no showboating and standing around and looking stupid.
Yeah, it didn't feel choreographed.
Yeah, it felt like a wrestling match, and that's what I like, and that's what I don't mind the squash matches because there's very little of that because there's not enough time for it.
And I absolutely agree with that, and they would be smart to take something from legitimate fighting where it's okay. So at the highest level, maybe you're going to be tested, and the fights are going to be back and forth because it's only the best are fighting the best. So if
right,
I'm trying to think of a good example, I guess. Not Ronda, certainly, because of that situation. And then I thought of Silva, and then he was running through people. It's been a while since I've watched, I guess, Robbie Lawler. So Robbie Lawler's in these super close fights with guys, but he's at the very top. So he's fighting the very best of the best within the division. So those fights are going to be back and forth. They're going to be, it's going to be a war of attrition. Whereas, okay, but if you put him in with the fucking number 25 welt, like you'd expect him to just kind of run through the guy.
Right, yeah.
And it wouldn't be just exactly the same as it would be if he's fighting, say, Johnny Hendricks. So, yeah, there's way too much of that where it's like, here's the champion of the division and they're in a match. Essentially Neville, Seth Rollins. At some point, Neville is Neville, and you can't, you know what I mean? You can't book him. Either you book him to look good against Rollins, and that elevates the fuck out of him. And so then he becomes, just like in fighting, you win the match and you go up in the rankings. Or he doesn't ever get to look that good against the champ because that's the fucking champion.
Well, and yeah, they also sort of shoot themselves in the foot sometimes with that stuff because,
all the time.
that sort of story, and they've done it throughout the years. I think it was Triple H and Taka at one point back on Raw. Those stories are fun if, they in the overall environment of the show and the program, they have a better idea of sort of. And New Japan does this really well too. Like you have your top guys, you have your middle guys, and you have your bottom guys. And when something unexpected happens, it pays off because you weren't expecting it. You weren't expecting a 50-50 match where a guy like Neville looks good. And you can elevate someone in a loss as long as it defies expectations of going into it.
Essentially, what Cena was doing with all the guys he was against in the U.S. Open Challenge before it became a way to do the feuds, like Owens and Cesaro and things like that. But yeah, when he was just, Ryder, Stardust,
right.
Someone else was in there too, yeah. So, yeah, and then when you do it like that, you can interchange, you can keep things fresh in each scene by bringing guys up and putting guys, like there's just no emphasis on wins and losses. And it's, well, they don't matter. So many people say wins and losses don't matter in pro wrestling. But NXT is a really good example of why that's horseshit.
Yeah.
Bill Goldberg, you always bring him up because, it's just like that. I remember Ryback. You remember Ryback actually did the bump for pay-per-view buys at Hell in a Cell with Punk just because he won all the time. Yep. It was literally the only thing about him that was anything was big guy who wins a lot gets title shot against a guy who's been champ for a long time. And they actually sold more pay-per-view buys than, like, there was a bump. And it's like, yeah, but it's Ryback. Well, right, because he was winning. Like, it's, how simple is that? And he was winning squashes against literally local athletes. Remember Benny Kamer and Stan Stansky?
Mm-hmm.
Fucking legendary, man. So it's like it's such a simple thing. And so, yeah, NXT is super refreshing in the sense that you get an hour show, which is super easy to digest, and you're going to get some guys getting their fucking shit tossed, and you're going to get dudes who actually, that's how you look good. You win.
Well, and they use a squash match as a way to develop somebody's character. It's like you're not just getting this guy, kicking
back
somebody
to Ronda.
Ass.
Why is Ronda such a big star? Beating the fuck out of people. Like, it's simple.
Yep.
Really
yeah.
is. We got anything else?
I don't know, man. We talked for a long time.
We talked, yeah. So should we predictions real quick? It's not even worth the time, is it? Everything's gonna be everything's gonna be a goddamn schmoz,
So
dude. Like,
you really think so? If your Taker Lesnar booking is right, you think both main events are ending in some sort of schmoz?
absolutely, Undertaker. Kane's. There's no way Kane's not gonna come back. Undertaker's gonna win the match because they're gonna. I think they're gonna do the WrestleMania 32 thing, which the part of me that I'm gonna go Bill Simmons here, and I'm gonna say that I'm actually.
You're leaving to go to HBO?
I'm actually expecting a better match from them at SummerSlam than anyone is anticipating, just because I feel like there's definitely a part of Undertaker that's like everyone shit on the WrestleMania 30 match, and he was concussed.
Yeah.
The whole fucking match, like the concussion happened really early,
Mm-hmm.
so he worked through a whole match with the lights on and nobody home. I think they're going to be really motivated to do something really good here. Like they're actually going to go out and we're going to fucking steal the show, and especially with TakeOver, and then they'll be the last match of all the shit that happens. They're the main event of everything the whole weekend. So you better fucking have a good match, right? And they're two vets, and it's going to be, so I think they're actually going to have a really good match. But yeah, there's no way Brock Lesnar.
Isn't Raw at Barclays the next night too?
Yeah, it is, but you know what I'm saying. As
No,
far
I know.
as
I'm wondering if that helps the crowd not shit all over the fact that they're going to get screwed out of a clean finish in 2 straight matches if some of those guys have tickets for the next night.
that's a good point.
I don't know. I mean, because I can't see a New York crowd being happy about that, but maybe that's what they're counting on is come back tomorrow night and see the rest of this story.
They'll all be there.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I don't know. I don't know what I got.
You got Undertaker. He's going to win.
I guess.
Mike?
Well, I'm still gonna hold out hope that they tell the right story and they have Lesnar win. The other thing about that too is, with a schmoz finish, if they want SummerSlam to be the WrestleMania of the summer, you can't end that show like that. Like I've been burned so many times by WWE that.
But they did the cash in at WrestleMania.
Right.
That's kind of a schmoz.
Right. That's true.
So
you got a winner though. I mean, that was
yeah.
I mean, the way that you're booking this is that I guess Lesnar wins by DQ or Undertaker wins, or Undertaker wins, but everybody knows.
They do like a ref bump, and then Kane helps him after the ref bump, and then
See, at least the cash in isn't that. That's to me that's different levels of schmoz.
Well, okay, Mike. Well, then what do you do with Undertaker if Brock beats him? Because he's coming back from Mania 32. So I mean, what do you do at that point?
I don't know, the Sting fight. I mean,
Man.
I know. But
I would love that, but there's Vince is so far away from that. It's not even.
I don't think Sting ever shows back up in the WWE. Right?
Oh, he'll come back. Shut up.
You think?
Oh,
why would he?
Because they can make money on him. I think he might come back for Night of Champions. I guess they told him they were going to use him for SummerSlam. Here's what was reported here's what went around, I'll say. Because it's always dangerous but I'm pretty sure I saw this in the Observer. But he got himself into kick-ass shape for SummerSlam because they told him, we're going to use you for SummerSlam.
Yep.
And then they told him, we're actually not going to use you for SummerSlam.
Right.
And so it's, why not, hey, come back for Night of Champions, where it's your SummerSlam's, it's WrestleMania, so they're hoping to get all these subscribers, and they're doing the gimmicks for the network and all this and that. You still need the big hook for the next show. So I think Lesnar actually works the next show, and I think Sting works the next show. I just don't see why they wouldn't do that. Maybe they just push back the angle that they were going to do with another Wyatt family member, and they don't do the thing where they turn Dean or Roman, and they just add Sting to the mix. I know it would be bad. I don't know who the fuck.
As somebody, I mean, I'm looking out for you, Boo. As somebody who loves Sting, I don't know why you would want him back. They're not gonna. They've proven what their intentions are in booking him.
Well, he needs his end too.
Yeah.
Someone, you know what I heard? You know what I heard was I thought was a pretty good idea. That Undertaker, they would do the interference thing, and that Undertaker would have fully gone to the side of the bad to defeat Brock, and then the lights would go out, and Sting, the vigilante, right, the dude who against injustice, would show up and go, hey, you've gotten off the path here, and now I'm gonna knock some sense into you. Let's go have the retirement match. I would love
that would be a great story, and it's never going to happen.
Nope.
I would buy into that.
Yeah, wouldn't that be fun?
That would be fun.
And
I mean, because the thing with me with Sting and Undertaker is, it would be whatever in the ring, but Matt and I have talked about this on Untethered in terms of older fighters. Like you don't want to see a fighter like Dan Henderson against a young up and comer who's going to hurt him. You want to see him against other old guys that are sort of contemporaries and peers. I mean, that's what I want to see Undertaker. I want to see him fighting guys. A Sting fight, for as awful as it could be. I mean, they've never been able to interact given the WCW WWF split. So
you know what it is to me? It's Silva GSP.
Yeah.
So much has happened. People have lost titles. They've been knocked out. They've retired. They've left. They've done all this shit. It's still a huge fight. I'd still love to see it. Just because there was such a tease of it for so long that it's like who would win, and you let yourself get all worked up about it, and then they just never delivered on it. So it's like if next year they were like, hey, we're actually going to do that fight, I'd be all about it.
Yeah.
Same thing with this. There's no luster because the streak's not there, and Sting's 100 years old, and the match would probably be terrible. They'd have to overbook the shit out of it. But it's still Sting versus Undertaker. Like, are you fucking serious? Like, we'd actually get that. They could actually. There's so much that they could do with that. So I really like that. Yeah, that's money to me. But yeah. As far as NXT goes, I think Balor retains, Bayley wins.
Yep.
Breeze wins because they're not going to put Liger over.
I don't know, man. They might not have been able to get Liger unless they agreed to put him over.
Get the fuck out. That'd be a terrible.
That's the way New Japan does stuff, brother. They wins and losses matter to them. That's when we were talking about that too. I mean, that they did the story earlier this year where Toru Yano was beating Tanahashi, and that the story meant something.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun.
Just losing to a comedy act ever. So.
And then Corbin beats Joe.
Yeah, and Ty Dillinger upsets Apollo Crews.
Shut up! Get out of here. Crews is gonna be a big deal, man.
I guess I don't. We'll see.
That's a great name.
Yeah, I'm on board with it.
That's a great name.
I like it. Yeah, it'll grow on us.
Apollo. What would your wrestling name be, Mike Fagan?
Dude, I have no idea.
You weren't ready for these hard questions.
No, I was not ready for that one.
We used to always do get to know who we're talking to at the end. Get to know your people at the end of the show. So tell us about yourself a little bit. What would your wrestling name be? Yeah, these are questions.
I have no idea.
Where are you from?
I'm in Chicago right now. I grew up in the suburbs, so I've been in this area most of my life.
Chicago, that must be terrible for you.
See, I love Chicago. I know you've talked shit about it, but I love the city, man.
Here's my thing. Chicago is like this. People who are there are unbearably attached to it. Like it's the greatest fucking thing that could possibly exist. Like no other city could possibly. They have an inferiority complex when it comes to when you bring up New York. It's like, oh no, we're way better. Like you got a lot of tall fucking buildings. Like it's not beautiful. I just don't get the huge appeal of it. Like what's so good about Chicago? Well, and the football team there is fucking garbage.
That's true. I disagree with you on the building. I get what you're saying, and I totally agree that there is an inferiority complex here. And I've been to LA, I've been to New York, I've been to a bunch of other big cities, and a lot of them have cool things going on in them too. Chicago in particular, though. I mean, I think part of it's just it's a big city. There's a lot to do. There's a lot of real world class museums and attractions, and for me at this point in my life, like I couldn't live somewhere where the mall and the movie theater were option A and B in terms of my Friday, Saturday night. So having a diversity of really, I've been able to see like Louis C.K. here. I'm going to see Bill Burr later in October. Like, there's just a lot of options in terms of entertainment and restaurants and even like training jiu-jitsu. Like, I have multiple options where I can train, which I wouldn't have if I was 50, 60 miles south. Then there might be one school in the town over that was my only option. Yeah. So
you're a snob, is what you're saying.
No, not at all. Not a snob at all.
That's what I'm getting.
Huh?
I said total hipster douchebag. That's what I got. That's all I heard out of that whole thing.
Well, we have better restaurants, 5-star.
Yeah, I can't be going to the mall.
Our jiu-jitsu mats are so much cleaner. It's funny he said that. Well, the mall or the movies, and it's like, shit, that was my Friday. I hit Chick-fil-A in the mall, and then I was gonna go see Straight Outta Compton. Fuck this guy.
Well, and there's nothing wrong with most of my family still lives in the suburbs, and that's their
I hate that too.
Their life. Hate what?
I
The
could
suburbs?
blame Chicago.
Oh yeah.
People who do that. If you live in Illinois, you could be like, well, I'm from Chicago.
Well, there's a great Burris joke that I saw him a couple years ago. And he had a great joke about it, about like, I live in I live in Chicago, but I really live in Schaumburg, and then I live in Gurnee. No, I really live in Chicago. And then he was like, I'm from Milwaukee. I really live in Chicago. Like, that just goes on and on and on. And the other, half the state of Michigan moves here after college. So.
Yeah, it's funny. People do that. That's funny you say that. I was dating someone who was going to Grand Valley in Michigan and was, oh yeah, I can't wait to go to Chicago.
Oh yeah, it's not a joke. Like half of the bars here are Michigan bars. It's fucking nuts.
Yeah, and who's your favorite football team? Just so we can.
The Green Bay Packers.
Ooh. I'm from Chicago. I like Green Bay.
Well, so the thing for me with football, with basketball and hockey and baseball, I have my teams. They're all Chicago teams. But growing up with football, my dad was never a hardcore football fan, and so I was a White Sox fan, I was a Bulls fan, I was a Blackhawks fan, but we never really got into football. And he likes football, but it was never a huge priority for us. And so my favorite team growing up as a young kid was the Buffalo Bills, because I grew up right in the middle of that.
You're a front runner.
Yeah, exactly. I'm a front runner. But I grew up in that like 89 to 92 era where they were in the Super Bowl for 4 years, and I had a huge man crush on Thurman Thomas. And as I got older, I started getting, more just because the Bears were around, I became more of a Bears fan. But then I was in Indiana for a few years, so I followed the Colts. And when I came back,
Jesus,
when I came back to Chicago, the big thing with the Bears for me is that Bears fans are too closely similar to Cubs fans, and I can't fucking stand Cubs fans. And I can't stand the ineptness of the Bears organization. And I finally had to say enough is enough. Like, I can't continue.
And this from a guy whose coach is Mike McCarthy.
Well, yeah, Mike McCarthy has his own fucking issues. That fucking go for it on fourth down once in a while.
So glad they gave him a new contract.
Oh God, it's fucking. Talk about a guy who's made his career off of having Aaron Rodgers as his quarterback.
Yeah, thank fucking God you have one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time, because otherwise you'd be fucking 2-14 every year, you stupid fuck.
Yeah, it's bad.
Sean's a Steelers fan.
Yeah, I can't talk because Mike McCarthy beat me in the Super Bowl, so I'm just sitting over here being quiet.
Sean is a Steelers fan, and his coach is a glorified cheerleader.
You
I don't mean that like he's a woman. I mean that like all he does literally is just good job, guys. That's all he does on the sideline.
Shut your mouth.
Who am I to talk? I'm fucking what was this? I don't even remember his name.
Yeah, every time the Bears hire a new coach, I thank God I have Mike Tomlin, because at least I know I'm gonna fucking get 10 wins a year and not have Brandon Marshall like talking about how my quarterback's a crybaby or whatever the fuck drama you guys got going on now.
My favorite thing on the internet is Drew Madry's "Why Your Team Sucks" series.
Yeah.
On Deadspin, and I'm having just the greatest time going through them. And I think I've read the Bears a billion times, and it really is. Every year we prop ourselves up with, we got this guy, and well, he's competent. Go ahead.
Well, I was to say that series, like last year, I thought it was a low point, and I know he was rushing him out. I think he even mentioned it this year that he got started on him late, and he really had to pump him out, like basically one a day. And he was better prepared this year, and I think it's been a huge improvement because I think the quality of it is back.
They're so good.
Yeah, every one of them is good this year. So
it's my favorite. Yeah, it's definitely my favorite thing on the internet right now is the "Why Your Team Sucks" here. And I'm not even necessarily, because I think it just fits so well with the NFL. Because like people are, well, you got to be negative about it. Like if you're going to be negative about anything, it's football,
Yeah.
or the NFL in particular. Not necessarily football, but the NFL, because the NFL is a dumpster fire.
Yep.
And you can't justify it. So anyway, I hate you for being a Packer fan.
Yeah, you know.
How do you? Here's another question. How do you switch alignment so much?
Well, again,
you're an honorary Bella at this point.
Well, again, with football, like I just never had a strong allegiance to anybody. You know, I had a grandfather who was a Packer fan. My best friend is a lifelong Packer fan. So, you know, I have some ties to it in terms of my relationships. But, you know, I was thinking about this the other day. Football is the only sport that, even now, as my interest in football kind of wanes as I get older, football is really the only sport that I can really sit in front of a TV on a Sunday and watch a random game and be invested in it.
Yes.
You know, even without fantasy football, which I still play, but it's not as much of.
I hate that shit now.
Yeah, and I like it, and part of the reason I like it is because it's a thing that me and my friends have done for going on 12 years, I think now. But there's just something about football that I can sit and watch a random game and be entertained. Where, you know, I love baseball and I love hockey, but it's difficult just to sit and watch a regular season game that I'm not personally invested in.
I'm glad you gave the regular season qualifier, because playoff time in hockey is fantastic.
Yeah, and even baseball for me is fantastic.
I agree.
But yeah, like, you know, there's just something about, and maybe it's because football's only 16 games long, and
it's the perfect schedule where they disappear long enough to miss them, and they come back and it's around, and they don't, like, it's not like, you know, baseball, it's a game every day.
Mm-hmm.
Football, it's Sunday and Monday. That's it. Well, I guess Thursday now, but it's typically such a shitty game.
Football also, I mean, I think I can watch a random football game. I don't know why. I guess it's marketing, but it's also you can see something like spectacular or horrible at any second.
Well, and I think also part of it, and I think this is part of the reason why like the Premier League is getting popular in the U.S. too, is, you know, you can watch one game and then you can follow on Twitter, and, you know, everybody else is watching it. So
right.
There's a real communal thing to it, and, you know, if you're like me, I don't have the Red Zone package or the NFL package, so, you know, for me to see highlights of other stuff, like, I can just follow on Twitter and there's going to be a GIF or there's going to be a movie that
it's easy to have opinions on.
Yeah, and, you know, everybody's talking about it, and that's sort of part of the fun of a big fight too. Like, you know, a big UFC or a big boxing match, or even WWE a lot, especially for WrestleMania. Like, everybody's talking about it, and it's fun to participate in that.
It's probably, to loop back to wrestling, yeah, it's probably why John Cena has had such longevity, because it's really easy to have an opinion on him.
Yeah.
It's harder to have opinions on guys like Finn Balor. It's harder, even a Kevin Owens or like a Rusev or Cesaro, guys that we want to see pushed further into a spot like that. It's just, I think Roman Reigns is probably flirting with that. It's easy to have. I think that's probably a good way to look at it. It's easy to have an opinion on for everybody. And
well, they
football
put
is
him in a position to have an opinion. I mean,
that's true.
I mean, Dana is smart enough to not just push the. I mean, part of it is because it's a shoot fight, and he has to. He knows these guys are going to go away, but, you know, he doesn't just put all his eggs in the John Jones basket, or, I mean, he puts a lot of them in the Ronda and Conor baskets, but.
Conor is fuck. That dude. That's the only. As far as MMA goes, I don't care about anything MMA anymore other than Rousey and Conor. Conor McGregor's fantastic.
Yeah.
Everything about that dude is just money.
I think he's gonna have a hard time with Jose Aldo, but
he's gonna lose that fight, but he's still gonna be awesome. I'm fully confident that he'll figure out a way to come out of it and still be just as big a star as he would if he'd have won it.
I certainly hope so, because I think he's great for the business. So.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think I have anything else. I can't get on board with your crazy ass change allegiance shit. You know what though? I wish I could, because my whole Twitter before I nuked it back in the day was like, I built like 800 followers just on meltdowns during Bears games.
Right.
Because I want to not care. Like, I really do. Like, people, you know, why do you fucking watch if you get so? Like, I don't even know. Like, I can't figure out how to not. You know, you joked and you're like, you don't have to do this to yourself, Gino. Join the dark side, and a picture of fucking like Rogers with the title belt and doing the work in the gimmick, and I just wanted to shoot him in the face.
Well,
And that's no cure for anything either. They didn't have the greatest postseason last year. They sort of got their balls.
I would have
fucking.
It would have been. They such a Chicago collapse in that Seattle game.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and I think part of the thing for me growing up and getting out of that sort of life or death mindset with sports is I gambled for a long time, and I still occasionally gamble on sports. But between that and playing fantasy football and getting into sabermetrics and just enjoying it's really made me just appreciate the athletes. So even in baseball, like the White Sox are my team, and I despise the Cubs, and that's sort of the last irrational fan thing that I have in professional sports. Like if the Cubs win the World Series, it's no joke that I'm gonna have to leave town for the celebration because I can't handle it. Like 2003 was like, I was going crazy.
Yeah.
But I've really been able to detach the sort of erratic, insane fandom and just enjoy watching, top-level athletes.
I think that's it for me when it's not the Bears. Like you said, you can sit down and watch a football. I love football. I subscribe to the Game Rewind package on NFL.com, and I watch literally every game that I can on Sundays. I just devote. Like I've made a notebook of picks. I'd probably seen me tweet about that before, where every year dating back to 2001. And I have kept every single one. And an interesting thing about that is I've picked the Super Bowl correct twice before the season started and within that time frame. 2 separate times where I nailed the Super Bowl prediction. I should start putting fucking money on this in Vegas. It was the Colts-Bears year and last year, New England-Seattle. I picked that both of those times. And I think I've correctly picked one team in the Super Bowl I think I've been doing it for 11 years now, 12 years maybe, whatever it is, whatever the number is from 01 on. And I've gotten it right 9 of those times. At least one team. But yeah, no, the crazy fandom thing, the Bears are the only thing I'm like that with. I don't know how to not be that way.
Yeah.
And I feel like it's more rewarding in a way because I'm so fucking murderously upset when shit goes wrong that the pendulum swings just as hard the other direction, so that when shit goes right, I'm it's fucking like having sex.
Yeah.
I mean, the euphoria is unmatched. So I can't even imagine how great. When they lost in the Super Bowl to the Colts, I cried. Actual fucking tears. I went downstairs in the basement I was with my family, and I had a girlfriend at the time, and she was like, I think I'm going to go check on him. And they're like, just give him some time. That's a real story, and it's dude, a team lost a game. What's the fucking matter with you? That's what I would think of someone else who was like that. But I just really wanted him to win. You know what I mean? It's dude, you're a psycho. It's I know I am. But when they do win, I can't even imagine how fucking amazing it would be. I'd go to Chicago just to loot the fucking place. I can't wait for the Cubs to win the World Series. I'm gonna come away with a TV, a stereo system. That's Chicago's gonna be. It's a shithole now. It's gonna be It's gonna be a burning shithole when the Cubs win the World Series.
If the Cubs win the World Series, this town, anything within a 5-mile radius of Wrigleyville is gonna be fucked.
It's gonna be awesome, and we're gonna come. Me and Sean are gonna come and loot, and we're gonna crash at your place. Talk some wrestling with you and your girlfriend.
Sounds good.
Awesome. That's all I've got. I'm sorry we haven't rambled on like this on a show in a long time.
No, we have 22 people currently watching them, and they are either saints or fucking saints.
They've hung around. Hi to all you 22 people. You know how I get. I like talking to Mike. He's easy to talk to.
Well, you bring the talent in, and
listen to him put himself. Get your plugs in. Go ahead.
You can catch me.
That's interesting. So anyway, Sean.
You can catch me on Untethered MMA every Tuesday at 6 p.m. You can find out the link to that show through my Twitter at It's Mike Fagan. I also write once a week at MMASucka, SUCKA.com. So if you want to follow some mixed martial arts, that's the place to go.
They probably regret that name, don't they?
I have a long history of writing for sites that have terrible names. So.
All right,
kind of the gimmick, I guess.
Yeah.
We'll be back. I don't know. I'll be back this weekend with Matt Roth, who will hopefully be.
No, you won't. We fired Roth. You'll be back with me.
Oh, we fired Roth completely? You doing both?
Yeah, he wouldn't put his fucking headphones back in on that show we did.
I don't. Can I?
No, I'm kidding.
Can I use my save? Can I use a save? Can this be like tough enough? I have a soft spot in my heart for that big teddy bear.
You said, "Can I use a save?" And I thought of The Voice. Wow.
I've never even seen that show. I don't know. I actually
Oh, you think you're better than me, Sean?
no. No, I just would never go to a mall on a Friday night or anything like that.
I know, right? I'd go to work out on a clean jiu-jitsu mat.
That's right. With Bill Burr.